Oh yeah, can I give you, wait, how do I give you permission to? Oh, cool. I guess you can just do an everyone right in the chat. You don't have to do announcements. Okay, you know what you should do when you post the everyone? Post the link for the, like the Discord event link. Because that way it just gives you like the info, and it gives you the Twitch link as well. Just like everything's on Hey, what is up to everyone across Twitch, across Facebook, across YouTube, across Instagram especially. If you're watching on Instagram, you can just see my talking head. I would really love if you would come over to the Twitch channel, because last week I tried to broadcast horizontally and vertically, and a bunch of y'all were in here, and it was quite fun, and at the same time I was going crazy trying to change between two cameras. So if you are watching this on Instagram, please come over to Twitch, ILBC_TV. We have a whole night of feedback going on, and I'm super stoked to share it with you. It's not too late to submit your tracks for feedback. We actually have only like 10 tracks in the queue right now, so if you need more info, you got to come over to the Twitch and ask. I'm not really going to be monitoring Instagram chat, and this is also really boring to look at. It's just my face. You don't get the fun borders and the other cool stuff. So yeah, well, I'll leave this on for a second until we really get going. And I wanted to tell you all, if you have not submitted to our beat call, what are you doing? All right. Not only can you win a Zen delay, physical hardware unit was worth about 500 euros. All right. You can also win some Jam Pro licenses and packs, and you can win a vintage Ninja Tune bag that is from Matt Black's personal collection. Now, a lot of people are freaking out saying like, oh, I don't have time to make a sample pack and do this stuff. You could submit as little as 2 or 3 really good loops. It is quality over quantity. What we are going to do is make a Jam Pro community pack out of these samples, and then we are going to give prizes to the best sample submitters. So you could submit as few as don't submit 1 loop. Give us at least 4 or 5, but you don't have to go crazy making a whole pack. The winner is just going to be chosen from the person who has made the tightest sample. Okay. So if you want more, it's bit.ly, it's a short link, and it's a beat-call. All right. bit.ly/beat-call. I'm going to show you, all right, you won't see it if you're on Instagram, but I'm going to show you just the little ad with prizes and stuff. So So let's address what it says on the screen, which is deadline submission May 13th. So that might even be extended. Right now, Matt isn't feeling so good. So we were going to do a stream on Sunday where he jams out with the winners, but probably that stream is going to get pushed ahead. So if you're close to the deadline and maybe you want to slide in and you want to slide some samples into the Google Drive afterwards, totally fine. So I would really, really love for you all to enter, and let's get some good samples, and let's make a really good community pack. And now I am going to go off Instagram. And one more time, I'm going to tell you, if you are watching on Instagram, please join us at Twitch, ILBC_TV. All right. Like, it's not going to be that interesting. Like, maybe I'll leave it on, but you're not even going to hear the music. Like, Twitch is the place to watch us. So without further ado, let me present my darling Nathaniel Wyvern. Welcome as usual. Good to see you.
Hello, everybody.
Your mic is a little quiet tonight. I think you can pop it up. Oh my gosh. I think we actually have Kindred. I can see him in the room, and we have not done like a sound check or anything, but I'm really, really stoked to have him here. So
fingers crossed it works.
I'm just gonna, we've got his beautiful face, the almighty Kindred. Really. So I don't know. You have to make sure that, can we hear you?
I don't know.
Wait.
He can hear
Check.
I can hear him.
Yes.
Hi. Yeah.
There he is. Yay. Big shouts out to Video Ninja, who make this really nice, easy technology so that we do not have to use Zoom calls. So amazing. All right, so here's the deal. As you all know, you have your tracks in the queue, and we give you feedback. So first up, we have Alfie, who is a Discord favorite, and he says this has actually good lyrics and vocals, so I'm really stoked to know what everybody thinks. So let's check it out, Alfie.
Liza, you ready?
Yeah, ready.
some good analog-ish type sounding stuff from Alfie. And first off, I just want to welcome Kindred to the stream. It's so cool to have you on. You've been on our Discord, you've been on our radar, you've been our friend for a while now. And so I would love if you would just quickly give a one-liner and just introduce yourself to the listeners, and maybe also just say like what you're working on, because I'm excited to know.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Kindred. I am a electro house and progressive house producer. I have a few releases on Mousetrap, one on Insomniac, and I am currently working on an album.
Amazing. And so that it's going to be all in the same genre. Are you doing anything new from people who are familiar with your previous work?
I'm doing a little bit of garage and future garage.
Oh, that's what I like to hear. I've actually been listening to some like random Future Garage YouTube channel like all day long lately. So super my vibe. So I'll give a little feedback first, and then I'll let you jump in. I was just going to say, Alfie, it seems like it's kind of a trademark of yours to do these tempo change things, like as if the person is kind of loading from vinyl. I kind of like it, but I've heard like 3 or 4 tracks of yours now, and I hear you kind of do it pretty much every time. And so I want to say, like, it's cool to do things like that, but if you do it every time, it's not as cool anymore, you know? Like I would love to just almost like, it would be fresh for me to hear a track of yours that stayed at the same tempo. But I don't dislike it. I'm just kind of like saying overall. Other than that, you said good lyrics. I can't understand them. So that would be my kind of critique, is I think with the vocal, you have to really produce it a little bit more and get some clarity going. Kindred, what were your thoughts?
Is the stream in mono?
It's not in mono.
Shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. No, Natty's getting stereo.
I'm getting mono. So that was all in mono. But something I really noticed is the vocals sort of... Is that in my headphones?
Yeah, I don't hear anything.
Okay.
What are you hearing?
A fly.
A fly.
All right. I noticed the vocals had kind of like inconsistent high end, like they were like boomy, and the sibilance was a little bit much. Like it needed to be de-essed more, and also like it needed more brightness in order to like be able to understand what the vocalist was saying, because it was like it almost sounded like there was too much reverb or something, because the mids were so boomy. It was like I wasn't able to understand the consonants.
Yeah, I agree. Natty?
I mean, I think that there is a lot of vocal layering going on, but I mean, I think with this track, it actually might benefit on stripping back some of those layers in the core parts of your phrases, and then using it in the verses at least for emphasis. So, like, because there's a lot of natural points where you're building up to this do-do, and then you keep it going, and then do-do, and it's like you could use that as a sort of a natural stopping point where you can introduce that layer and create a big vocal impact with your layers, and then you keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's just how it feels to me at this point. It would also make mixing it way easier because you only have these moments where it's really dense.
Yeah, somebody was saying it sounded like a live performance, and I would kind of concur. Like it sounded a little bit like kind of improv-y one take, which has its moments, but I think that maybe like at least for like especially the hook parts, doing something more produced and more sort of tight. Because another thing is the timing of the vocals, I think could be tightened a little bit, and that's one thing a lot of people don't realize when they're just like, oh, you know, because they work with acapellas, so they work with already produced vocals, and when you actually get original vocals, you have to go in and do sort of plastic surgery, and it's not like tuning per se. There's that, but there's timing, right? And I think that a lot of people don't realize how much people tighten the time on commercial releases. Like they will go in and they will move little bits, and there's plugins like Vocal Line and things like that will help you do that. But just doing a little bit of processing and shifting it, and you can still keep it sounding natural, but I think that tightening it up will allow you to hear the rest of the mix, because it's sort of drowning. All right. It seems like everybody's very chill tonight, as am I. So we're going to move on to Nick Beeman, another local feedback. He says, I would like some suggestions on the track name because now I feel like it doesn't fit the song. That's an interesting thing, but let's see why is it coming in? SoundCloud loves to be funny when I'm on the air. How are you doing tonight, Natty? How's your week been?
Tired mostly. I mean, I was working a lot last couple of weeks, and then I caught some sort of cold thing, so I've just been taking it easily mostly.
Well, let's take it easy with Nick Beeman. It's called Stilled. Really, really lovely stuff from Nick Beeman. Natty, why don't you go first?
I don't know. I mean, your question about the name is intriguing because, I mean, the word stilled, it depends on whether you're trying to describe the scene the song is generating or how, maybe even perhaps how you're wanting the listener to appreciate the track. I mean, this works really well with me just sitting here, relaxing into it, enjoying all the little bleeps and bloops and the pads and stuff. So, I mean, I don't think the name is necessarily wrong. It may have evolved, but I don't think it's a bad name by any means for this song. I would like perhaps a little bit more manipulation of your stereo field, though. I mean, especially when it comes to more ambient and abstract-y music, you don't have to follow all the sort of general conceits that you would in dance music, where there's sort of a rigid through line with your drums and your bass in the middle and everything else sort of built up around that. You can have those little shakers and things move around. They're not confined to that little person on the side in the orchestra. They can do whatever they want, and it would still work.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's kind of where I'm thinking of where you'd take this next. I'm like, don't change the progression. I think that's pretty solid. Although there's a couple moments where you sort of have this, it's not a drop, but it's an impact, but you don't really maximize the impact there. But otherwise, and maybe other than looking at that, it is just about now expressing it spatially, because you're working in that meditative abstract space. It's entirely up to your imagination.
Kindred?
Yeah. I the like main thing that stuck out to me was the stereo field. How I like to think about it is, so like when you're mixing something, you have different levels, right? So like normally you'll have your kick at like -6 or whatever, and everything else will follow in increments. But like when people think about the stereo field, they think about middle and then sides, but there's like a lot of increments in between that you can use to like give things a sense of depth and like put things inside of a stereo field. And I think this mix suffers a little bit from pushing stuff all the way to the sides, and then having like even like the pads are a little bit too in the middle, when you could push them out a little bit more and have like a more cohesive stereo field, and something that like interacts in a space rather than like, oh, I am panning this for the mix kind of thing. Like it's sort of a creative decision, but it's also like it needs to be something that's like in my head and not like I'm listening on 2 headphones kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think for this genre, like which everybody was asking, like, what genre is it? I mean, it was kind of a mix of genres, this ambient stuff. It's okay to have it be like kind of backgroundy, and that's like a compliment, not a criticism, because you don't always want music to be in your face. And I think it sits in a really lovely place. Like it's interesting and it's listenable, and it's also not too crazy. But to echo what both of them said, like then it's extra important to do things like play with the stereo field, because that's your point of interest. That's where you can get crazy, because you're creating this like 360-degree world, and you're taking people through it in perspective rather than just trying to draw their attention with something. So yeah, there's a lot of like cool plugins to be creative, like Brower Motion by Waves. I don't use a lot of the Waves plugins anymore. I was just setting up my new computer and thinking like, I'm not going to bother with all those bundles and stuff, because I only use like 2 or 3, but Brower Motion is one of the ones I do use. And it's got like this crazy looking little planet that sort of has orbits, and it pans things like that. Melda has like a spectral multi-band panner as well, and you can do some really crazy things when you pan on different bands. So I think that just playing with the stereo will bring it to a really, really nice atmospheric place. Amazing. So we're actually stepping through this week. We got Kwansil coming up with a track called Don't Worry, asking, is it too repetitive? If so, what could I do to make it more interesting without changing the initial vibe, which I'd want to keep? All right, let's check it out. And of course, SoundCloud, of course, when I say that, is going to make me reload. Let's see. right, Natty, why don't you go first this time?
I mean, I think for the length of the track, the actual structure is fine. There's nothing too overly repetitive. I think that where you do suffer is the fact that sort of glidey lead sound is one a little bit far back, but also could do with some extra layering and texture variety, because it's a very, very smooth sound. And since you kind of play it the same way the whole entire track, that's likely where your brain's going, I feel like this is too repetitive, this is too repetitive. Because if you start introducing some little subtle movements into it and emphasis layers, things in the upper harmonic range or even the lower harmonic range around that lead sound, you can start to add the first ear candy of the night. Ear candy. And then once you've done that, you'll sort of have a better idea of how much space you really need for your lead sound.
Yeah.
And then it'll make it easier to sort of bring everything else back in and say, okay, this is how much space this needs and how much space my drums need. I mean, I felt your drums were a little bit, your kick is a little bit off as well, perhaps. I mean, it's almost too thumpy, rather than like the transient is very long and drawn out in a way that, so maybe you have to look at transient shaping, it's a little more slightly clickier rather than so round. But yeah, I think it's just your lead sound that's bugging you right now.
Kindred?
Okay, I wrote some stuff down. So as far as the drums go, like I agree with the kick transient being a little bit almost smeared. I think like what could really help there is like getting more of a high mid transient by layering an acoustic kick drum. You can like, get one off Splice, or you can use addicting drums or whatever else, but like something like that to kind of make it punch through in the higher mid instead of just the lower mid, I think would make it sound a lot nicer. Also, I think the break is too quiet, especially in the high end. I think it could definitely be turned up, especially with these kind of like breakcore songs. The break is super important to the vibe, and I think it could definitely be like a good bit louder. I think that pad that's like sort of filling out space, the like note selection for it is like, it's not technically out of key, it just doesn't do anything, like it's kind of like a cluster chord that doesn't really move in a meaningful way, and I think changing up the way that that's moving to like help your progression could help it feel, first of all, less repetitive, but also like have more emotion to the track overall.
Cool. Yeah.
And I think overall it could be a tiny bit brighter.
Yes, definitely agree with that. And also I think like it's tricky because some people are saying more sound design, some people are saying more melody variations. I think it's kind of a balance. It's like if you do crazy sound design and you do lots of like Hocket, like lots of synth patchwork, and you have a lot of different sounds, then the melody should be really simple and repetitive because you have a lot going on. But if you're using very simple, clean, like sort of basic waveform sounds, which is not a diss. I mean, I'm not telling you you're basic, but in this case, you're basic is not necessarily a bad thing, because those waveforms are nice, like a clean sine waves, squares as saws, like they're nice sounding. And there is a whole like genre of music where I think people are using really clean, simple sounds, but then they're doing really crazy elevated melody. So I feel like if you're going to use your sounds to be super simple, then maybe you need to elevate the melodies and use try using some MIDI plugins to play with chord progression inspirations. Like I know it's like a dorky suggestion, but it's honestly helped me a lot. And I'm a piano player because I get stuck in patterns because everyone does, right? Or alternatively, keep the sounds as they are and obviously work on the mix and all the other feedback that you've been given and play with the melodies and the chords. Like I think you kind of just got to do one or the other type of thing. So really nice melodies though, really nice track overall. Next up we have Nathan Vandenberg, who informed us that
Sorry, we got a cue jumper first.
Wait, and by the way,
I
Nick,
checked your DMs. I sent
Huss Avalon. And before that, sorry, I almost forgot because I'm just doing 5 things at once, but thank you so much to Nick Nick Beeman, for your donation. You've been awesome. We love having you. We love giving you feedback. Yeah. So where are they in the queue? This is why I need you to send me the queue.
Well, I sent you the.
Oh, you did?
Sent you a DM with.
Oh, you said he slid into my DM so smooth that I didn't even see him. Wow, Nathaniel.
There you go.
Damn. All right, we got a queue jumper. And what is Huss Avalon looking to find? Oh, is the kick at 2.21 okay? I feel the mix isn't right. Is the song not too repetitive? Although techno is pretty repetitive. What do you think of the idea of techno versus trance? I'm very glad that we have Kindred here today, because people always ask me these questions and I'm like, I am not qualified to answer this. So we actually have somebody here tonight who is qualified to give you feedback on this. All right. Thanks, Huss. full disclosure, I'm not the best person to judge this, but I would say yes, it's too repetitive, and right away I would say like, hey, atmosphere, right? You have these really long string pads, and you know they're kind of boring, right? Like you have like a basic pad and melodic idea. There's nothing wrong with that, but flesh it out. I mean, like, play with some chord arrangements. Again, use MIDI plugins to help you if you don't know about music theory. Just really expand on that and put some noises, put some Foley, put some atmospherics in, because all I'm hearing right now is this very singular string and the kick. So I will step back and let Kindred kind of jump in, because like I said, I don't feel as qualified, but I feel like this needs more.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry. Just drank so much coffee. I think like a mistake that people make when they're making techno, and I don't necessarily make techno, but I've listened to a bunch of it, is that they think techno equals low end, and like that's sort of true, but also at the same time you need high end for the energy, right? Like you need the kick to be punching the entire spectrum. You need drums that are like obnoxiously loud when you're doing this kind of like hard trance, fast techno stuff. I think like arrangement wise, again, like a trope is like techno equals long, but like you don't necessarily have to do that. Like I thought it was kind of cool when the like drop per se came in and it was like just kick and bass for a minute, but then like when it did that first transition, I was like, okay, now there's gonna be really like loud open 909 hi-hats, a really obnoxious clap, there's gonna be like an arp or something, but it just kind of like stayed stagnant. And I think that's where the track could be improved, is if you like were to add more at one time, if that makes sense. Like not to just be like just add more, but like literally just add more. Like it needs more driving the track forward.
Yeah, agreed. Natty?
Start with the strings. Right now you've got effectively the same basic string loop going over and over and over again in the background, but in a real life situation a string player wouldn't play that way. So it sounds like you're using a sample, but you can immediately boost the variety by changing how your strings develop throughout the track. Sometimes you could go into sort of a portamento where the notes start bleeding together, or you could start having it follow the kick with a very staccato or pizzicato kind of thing, so it's like plucky or stabby. And you know, like effectively once you start manipulating that, you'll start seeing other openings to maybe introduce other orchestral elements into this track. I think it's going for a very epic cinema kind of vibe in its own way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and as soon as you said epic cinema, I just heard there's this contact library called Maliki, and it's like just big orchestral, like dramatic, you know, action movie type of hits, like boom. Like I could see kind of just putting that in and just giving it more of a story, because I think the trick of having a repetition is like you have to get people into the trance, so that, and then they stay in the trance, but they don't just start in the trance, if that makes sense. You have to build them there. This is me. The thing I know the most about trance is about like actual trance, like from Aboriginal ceremony times, because at Tribal Gathering in Panama, where they bring tribes from around the world, we had a trance ceremony which had no kick drums. It was just a shaman around a fire and us chanting things and clapping. But I know this, like you can't just start going, right? You have to lead in there. You have to get people hypnotized, and then you can keep them there. So all really good suggestions.
There's also some very interesting stuff suggested by Nathan Vanderberg, who, sorry, we've ended up skipping you for people donated, but we will get back to your song. So I like the suggestion of adding a gator onto the strings, and you can automate that too, how strong the gate is, so that it's like really, really stuttery, in line with the kick and the hats, perhaps, because you can have, with the gate, it's like if something else is making a sound, I'm making a sound. So like if me and Isha were gated, we'd only be able to talk at the same time. Compared to say sidechain compression, where you're ducking one thing under another. It's a really cool effect. Definitely worth experimenting with.
Yeah, exactly. And
I feel like...
Go ahead, yeah.
Sorry. Oh, Kindred and Isha are gated.
No. Go ahead.
Damn it. I feel like this is one of those scenarios where like the best thing you can do for yourself is use a reference track. Like find something in this genre, like in hard trance, in hard techno, that you like, and copy it. Not necessarily like take the track and remake the track, but like listen to the track, listen to what elements are coming in at what times, what different elements are trying to do, and then reinterpret that in your own way. Like, and it's kind of like a practice thing. Like, oh, I know this is how I get effective, effective progression with this song, and like how to build energy over time.
Yeah, super wise words. And that actually that would made me think of the best plugins to mess around with, and I use them all the time. So if you are trying to make trance and you don't know about Infected Mushroom, I would kind of recommend you check them out, because they're an electronic duo. They also have like a live electronic show, which is pretty dope, with like live instrumentalists, and they make plugins. So that might be the plugin of the week. I'm actually like trying to open this massive project. I can give you all a little preview of it for a sec. I'm working with Underbelly. If you know Underbelly, he's the guy from You Suck at Producing. He's the one that says wowzers. And we are working on a track right now, and I'm actually using some of the Infected Mushroom plugins of that. So actually, let me where's my screen? This is odd. It usually comes up. Is it big screen, small screen? Because I was going to just show you really quickly. Yeah, I don't know why it's not showing. This is interesting. There it is. All right, so the plugin of the week is just all the Infected Mushroom plugins. So they have Gatekeeper, which is like a gate pattern, which would be really great on those strings for people that were suggesting a gate. And they have Manipulator, which is like a formant messer. And then they have I Wish as well, which is what I'm actually using. So I Wish allows you to like send MIDI to audio and sort of stutter it and glitch it. And where is my I Wish? There it is. So sorry, I can't see very well from this angle of my other screen. So I Wish has like a formant generator and LFO and envelope, and you basically can play with this, and you can automate everything. That was a comment I saw in the chat earlier, was automate everything. I don't know why my webcam went away. That's hilarious, but it's fine. You don't need to see me. So here is this thing without I Wish. I'll show you a little preview of what is this. It's a whip, very whip. Sorry, my latency is not happy with that. And playing through this thing. Let me just go, 128 is not happening right now. I think I even have Premiere open. And I'm streaming. All right, so that's even worse. Wow, it's a pretty nice effort. You know what? We're going to come back to this because this project is too big. But basically, the long answer to that is like use Infected Mushroom plugins because they make your stuff sound great. I don't know why my computer is just fritzing. I probably have to close a few things first. I'm also running Volta doing visuals. But let me just show you real quick. Gatekeeper is really cool. And maybe I'll come back later and I'll see if I can actually load something that it will play with. But Gatekeeper allows you to make patterns, right? And so you can do something like this to your strings and actually create a new rhythmic pattern within it. And then they also have Manipulator. But yeah, we'll come back to this because clearly this project is already too intense for my computer to handle. So we have a cue jumper next. The almighty Rags. Rags comments. What is he looking for? Feedback, Natty?
Just wants to vibe.
Just wants to vibe. All right. Can we vibe?
Me too.
Can we vibe to it? Do you dig it?
I dig it. All right. Oh, it's Guilty. He's one of our mods as well. So it's a track by Guilty featuring Rags. Isn't that neat? All right.
Hellman boy.
into a fair. Never failed to amuse me, yeah. Didn't think you knew better. Was surprised to a downfall. Was a battle to the war. Does it all really matter? When I heard the same story before. Trust the illusion, love the abuses, embrace the contusions. Everybody uses, you have not eluded occlusion, yeah. Feel your heart's grown cold and sore, leaving it torn. Still sleeping on a young, please ring the alarm. It's on and it's on. How you waiting along, but at the end of the day, just wanted to be alone. Eyes wide shut, but mirror is not blind. I am not designed to walk with a mankind. I got plenty reason for thought, making the season. I'm thinking to change the motive for breathing and blinking and being a piece of the storm to bring a meeting to harm. The artifact, no fact, don't need to conform. I'm in a technicolor jungle with a switch if you want. That I make the clock ticking while I need to perform. Can't understand the concept of my mindset, even if I had a tight set. Tell them it's the principle, we're looking at it all funny like I'm supposed to define that. Yeah, right. Hit it back with the lights dumb low. If you don't know, that's where you find yourself. And every time it reminds that, constructing to find that. Didn't really need your help. Yeah.
Damn, son, where'd you find that? Honestly, that was really dope. I don't have a ton of feedback on that because like the beat knocks, and like at first I almost thought it was like too compressed, but then I think with this style it actually just makes it crunch and like it knocks. Like this seriously knocks. The synth is great. The only thing I would say is that I think that you could slam harder on Rags's vocal. If Guilty is watching this or is going to watch this, like your voice, Rags, it's really great. Like I love that kind of whispery tone, but because the beats knock so hard, you got to like really hard compress that and maybe even play with like a slow, like sharp, a slow hard knee attack or something to give it like a spike. You know, that's a trick that I use on drums, but a lot of the tricks that you would use on drums, you can use on rap vocals to make them like knock a little bit more, because this vocal needs to just like it needs to float on top, and it needs to be breathy like it is. Like the tone is perfect, but the processing needs to step up a little bit to meet this beat. That's my 2 cents. What about you, Kindred?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I was like thinking the whole time, like, I don't know if y'all have heard Willie Crooks. William Crooks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking that like you could totally just like soft clip the shit out of the vocals and it would sound super cool if you wanted to. I think the vocals had a little bit too much mid range, but that's like a consequence of that square bass being so wide that it's like kind of drowning out the doubles and the high end a little bit. So like if you pulled that in a little bit and then boosted the high end on the vocals, I think it would sit a little bit clearer. And then if Guilty's watching this, I think the kick is super nice, but like, and this is sort of like a personal preference thing, like if you put like Decapitator on it or something like that, just to get a little bit more of like a crunch in the high end out of it, I think that would also sit really nice. And putting some like vocal throws, like some verbed out, like him just screaming woo or something, and then like it's soft clipped to hell, and then there's like a reverb on it. I think that would be sick in the fills.
Oh, that's a cool
But that was really good. I like that.
Yeah, that was very sick. Natty?
I mean, I think this one's actually a released track already, so obviously I don't expect Guilty necessarily would go through the whole feedback tweaking thing unless he feels like doing a remastered version down the line. But you know what would be really cool? I'd actually love it just if you two collaborate again. You know, bring us some more heat.
Bring us some more.
Because you do work well together.
Nadia, I gotta say, I love it when you like say slang because you have such a like proper Scottish kind of accent. It's just like, yes, bring us some more heat. It's just like, I love it. I need to sample that. Somebody clip that, please. My man Nathaniel. This is Alicia Kindred and Nathaniel Wyvern. You're watching ILBC, and this is another episode of Feedback and Friends. I think we have one more Q jumper next, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stigma.
Stasis Stigma.
Sounds good. And what was the...
Stasis Stigma?
Stasis. Tomato. Are the drops heavy enough? What do I need to polish this? Thank you. That's what they want to know. All right. Wow, so you have a pretty new-looking SoundCloud account, but it sounds like you're a little experienced. Like this mixdown is definitely, to my ears over here, fairly balanced, fairly like even, and everything's kind of hitting in the right place. And I mean, it sounds good to me. And again, I'm glad that I have Kindred here in his four on the floor wisdom. Hallowed be thy name. What do you think of this?
You are in my realm.
Lord Kindred.
Honestly, this is such like a fucking cop-out comment, but it just, I think it just takes too long to get to the drop. It's like the main issue. Like, if you were to send this to spinning or something, they'd be like, cut out the first minute and a half, just like get rid of it. I think it's cool, but like, if you try to send that to a label, that's what they're gonna say to you. I think creatively, the main thing that I think you could do to help the track is like the drop obviously has energy, like you said that already. But like energy without context is not meaningless, but like not as meaningful. So I think you need a more energetic and a more meaningful build, like something that has like more rhythmic drums, sweeping motion, filtering motion, that kind of thing, to make the drop hit harder when it comes in. And yeah, I think the rest is good.
Natty?
I mean, I agree with the whole lack of context thing. It honestly got to the point where I kind of forgot I was meant to be listening to a drop, and almost sort of didn't notice it when it happened, because there's not a huge amount of contrast between all that build-up and the drop in the pace, like the actual energy levels you've got. I mean, you introduce more bass, but that's kind of the only noticeable energy change between your build-up and your drop. So maybe look at seeing how you can, if you are going to have an extended intro, try and play around with the mid-range more first, and then go really, really hard on just a really solid bass emphasis element, and then bring everything back in together after you've really established this is the drop. I mean, there were a couple of comments as well suggesting that it sounded a little bit hollow in places, and I definitely agree a little bit, but I mean, I think it's more that there's a lot of really mono elements in the track, and it might be just a case of duplicating some of your layers up a little bit and spreading them out.
Yeah, I think especially that saw lead, like if you push that out to the side with like a dimension expander or a chorus or something, I think that would help a lot. Also, it definitely needs a little bit of reverb, that lead.
People are saying this is a very dry production style. Yeah. I think some more dimension. Yeah, you have like the elements, you have the space. Now you just need to sort of put it back, give it some depth. So all very good comments. All right, next we are going back to the queue. Our queue jumpers are done, unless anyone else wants to give us a little tip, which enables us to keep providing free feedback sessions and workshops. We have the beat call, just in case anyone joined late. We have a sample challenge going on. You could submit as little as like 4 or 5 loops, as long as they're good loops, to our community sample pack, and you could win a Zen delay from Eric Synths, which is pretty dope. So I suggest entering. It's beat call. I'll put the link on the screen while I'm playing it. Next up we have Nathan. Thank you for waiting patiently, Nathan, who crashed our stream last time we played the track. So this time let's wish for luck. Love some good feedback. Isn't fully done. All right. So Nathan is track called Where to Go. It's almost like Kindred wasn't a surprise guest, and he literally actually was. We just figured out that he would come on like a couple hours ago. So it seems like people just knew you were here, though. The style of music this week is, I'm going to let you go.
Yeah. Fun. Yeah, I thought that too. It's funny. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty solid, you know. I think I wrote some stuff down. I think the vocals, and Esha might be more qualified to talk about this, but I think they have like a weird tone. Like I don't know what's going on there necessarily. I think if you put soothe on the main middle vocals, it could fix the tone a little bit. It's like peaky in some parts and like not peaky in other parts. It just sounds oddly formatted. And also the doubles, when the doubles come in, they're definitely too loud, and they need like vocal send and delay to like help fill out the space and stuff. And like I said in Discord, I think it definitely has too much bass, like to the detriment. And it's like okay with these kinds of like this kind of genre, like this kind of progressive trance almost have a lot of sub, but this is like to the point where it's like sort of making everything else harder to hear because it's too much. I would definitely use a reference track to sort of level your sub in the right spot for that kind of thing. Also, structure-wise, I think it like makes sense. Like this is definitely like a progressive trance structure, and everything's in the right place. It's just like there's a lack of obvious transitions. Like there needs to be more freaking hashtag ear candy in order to like make sure that it's like progressing things along, like doing the thing where you do the clap on the and of 4 before the transition kind of thing. Like I would definitely go listen to some Hellberg or something to sort of get the idea of like how to do those transitions, because I think everything else is solid.
Yeah, reference tracks is always, I think, the best advice. You never really know. You have your one perspective, and I haven't had speakers. I haven't had a real studio basically in like 3 years because I've been living in Spain, away from my studio in Denver, and reference tracks save my life. Like I cannot mix without them because I have no idea. I mean, I had to adjust to just headphones, sub pack, and then I have these really crappy Pioneer desktop speakers. So can't say enough about reference tracks. I want to say I really loved the melody. I love that kind of minor scale. So haunting and so pretty. Like that was my favorite part about it. I was really, really vibing to like the melodic work and the vocal melodies and the breakdowns. It's totally that kind of like pentatonic, whatever. I'm not the best at music theory, but that is what it is. And I think it was beautiful. And to me, it just sounded like something I would hear in a club. So really good stuff. Natty?
I mean, Kindred was talking about something bugging him in the vocals. I think a lot of it is in the sibilant range, that sort of area where it's creating a harshness to the vocals that almost that makes them feel like they're distorting when they're not. And so maybe having a look, I mean, either with just a really sort of a gentle notch EQ, just have a play about with it's usually around the 5 to 8 kilohertz range. Have a play without that and see whether you can gently out a little bit, whether that's, because I'm pretty sure that's the problem here. And if you have a de-esser, also just see if you can make it a little bit more extreme, like push it a little bit harder, because that will probably help that sit a little better. Otherwise, I mean, there has been talk in the chat about how you might make it distinct. And I think a track like this, the way to make it distinct, obviously you want your drops to sort of be compatible with any old set, as it were. You want people to be able to chop bits out of your track and slot in alongside another track and have it all work. So your place to add more individuality is kind of your build-ups and your breakdowns. And so maybe have a look at how you can come down in a way that sort of feels less I'm making a psytrance track and more I'm making something that amplifies the energy that I'm building in the songwriting, as it were. I don't know whether that's a stupid idea or not. It might be, but
I agree.
All right. Well, at least there's consensus there.
Consensus. The seagulls are back, says Zine. All right. No, nobody missed their song, I don't think. We got Zine up next. We're back to the queue. We had a couple of queue jumpers. As always, if you want to donate, it helps keeps us going, and it also enables you to skip the queue and or get deluxe feedback. So next up, we have Zine that just wants to get roasted. Always getting roasted. All right. Natty, roast.
Had the hilarious roast, and I kind of want you to play the track again while I can still speak over it because it's just hilarious.
All right. Ready?
Introducing the new Hyundai Sonata. A hybrid. A member of the family. It'll get you from A to B in style. To your grandmother's funeral in comfort. And to your pet's cancer treatment with fuel left in the tank thanks to regenerative braking systems. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Hey, he wanted to get roasted, so I was gonna say that, or like also like Urban Outfitters or Primark, kind of like yay, 90s is back in style.
You know, Cancer Cruel made a video on commercial music, and he made like a parody track, and I think this fits better than the parody track, honestly. Like, do not use that.
Are you talking about the Tentacle
please.
corporate music one?
Yes, please do
I love
not
that
use
video.
that chord progression. Oh my god.
Yeah, or some kind of like basic like Mario World, like one, the in-between stage when you just have to like refill your stock, like not an actual level.
Speaking of stock, it feels like I'm in a boardroom meeting or something, and they're playing a video about diversity.
I mean, I think if you were to improve the direction of this track, because obviously I think we should probably do something constructive without roasting, but...
No. They said roast. The chat is killing it right now. It feels like a Watermark song, like a Bahamas all-inclusive tour video. Surreal86 says, too little corporate ukulele. Dub3 says, you can make it your Tinder profile song.
Yeah, where's the glockenspiel, dude?
Rags, this beat came with a free paid vacation with hidden fees. Nathan says, a Kai go down bad. And Zine themselves says, improve the direction of the track is just to delete. Hey,
I don't disagree with you.
Hey, you know, we are always super positive and supportive. And listen, this fine young producer wanted to get roasted, so this is what we've delivered. Congratulations, everyone! I think this is a pretty fine moment. And now back to your regularly scheduled feedback and friends.
At least they finished a track. That's like more than most people can say.
Hey, no, that is super constructive. I mean, like, it's true. Zine has been sending things in all the time, and like, if you're whatever motivates you to get up and to produce, do it. Like, make as many things as you can, because honestly, like the arrangement and everything, like, you could release this as a meme track, and no question, I'm sure people would play it, you know? So if that's what you want, like, that stuff, people love it. People love sharing it. That's the stuff that kind of goes viral. So I would just put some strange sample over top of it and just call it done, you know? just throw it out there. Or maybe even just sample Natty, get Natty to record his infomercial vocals for you. So amazing. So James Slack, really stoked to hear. It says, this is a rough whip. I've put maybe too much emphasis on drum mix and bass sound design. I know the structure is not complete yet. So this is Slack, Sad Cat Interlude. always good vibes with James Slack DB. Well done, really beautiful kind of rolling vibes. And I think, as you said, you have to make more stuff. You just have to add some fills, the ear candy. Time to take a shot, and just keep fleshing it out, because definitely, obviously, you're still developing it. So some ambience, like some really nice textures and noise and things like that, to build that story, and then a little bit more connection. Like obviously, right now you have to work the intro so that it connects a little bit too after the drop, because it was unexpected, but it wasn't necessarily unexpected in a provocative way. You know what I mean? Like, I think you can be unexpected if it's sort of intentional, but right now it just needs to be connected a little bit better. Do you know what I mean, Natty?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I actually really liked what you were doing in the intro, to the point where I was almost sad when it went. Like, there was more road you could have taken there to actually develop that into a full-on sort of down-tempo ambient piece. And then it's almost like he got scared and just was like, okay, I'm going back to my safe zone now, where it's all upbeat and drum and bassy. When, this is an interlude, obviously. Its idea is meant to be connecting a track we can't hear with another track we also can't hear, because they're not in this file. But just because it's a connective track doesn't mean it can't do its own thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I just feel like that's, rather than worry about going into that up-tempo section, focus more on what you're doing in the intro, and then see if you can start seeding in hints of the up-tempo stuff. I think something like breaks as a, like, sort of, there's a general sort of pool that people just pile a load of music in that's just breaks. And I think that could be the way to go, where you just every so often sort of disrupt our expectation of the ambientness, and then say, okay, this has got this bit in here, and then we'll go back to it, in, out. And does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it does.
Natty monologues again, I guess.
I love it. Kendra, what do you think?
I liked it. I liked that. That was nice. Okay, so like production, like mix wise, there's like a couple of things. I think you could clip the drums, like run it into a soft clipper. I think that would make them sit nicer, because like the kick especially has kind of like a weird transient for drum and bass. I think it kind of suffers from that same like LCR kind of mixing syndrome, where it's not like perfectly LCR, but like all of this space right here kind of has nothing. So it sounds very stagnated and not like it's in a space. And I think like something huge you can do to make it sit better is putting a chorus on the bass, which is pretty standard for like drum and bass re stuff, and like high passing it. I think that would sound really nice. And the vocal that came in, it kind of like came in abruptly, and I think something that could fix that is doing the vocal preverb trick, which is what you do is you reverse the vocal, add a reverb, and then print that, and then reverse that again, so it like has a reverb coming in, so it's not like abruptly now there is a vocal. Like, it's kind of like, oh, there's something coming, and it's a vocal, and it sounds really nice. Because I think it fits there. Creatively, I think, first of all, I think it's a little slow. I think you could honestly up the tempo a little bit. Drum and bass is usually at like 174, 176, and I think that would make sense for this track. But if you want to do that, I understand. I think the intro could do a little more to build toward the drop, like maybe adding some percussion, adding some shakers, maybe adding like that think break in the background, but like super filtered kind of thing. But I think it's like the idea is there. It just needs some smoothing out creatively.
Yeah, agreed. Oh, next up, we have another longtime Discord buddy and favorite, Kartabir, who is another person living. I have not met him, but he lives in Spain as well. So we'll be meeting him with Nathaniel. We're going to go and take a hike. Any specific feedback, did he say? This is a whip still in progress. All right. It's called La Noche by Kertebir.
Este es el ritmo de la noche. Este es el ritmo de la noche, 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 de la noche. Este es el ritmo de la noche, 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 de la noche. Este es el ritmo de la noche, 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 de la noche. Este es el ritmo de la noche, 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 de la noche. Este es el ritmo de la noche, 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 este es el ritmo de la noche. Este es el ritmo de la noche. Eso es lo que quiero. Este es el ritmo de la noche, de la noche, de la noche. Este es el ritmo de la noche. Eso es lo que quiero. Este es el ritmo de la noche, 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 de la noche.
Ooh, it's a nice little groove from Kertebir. I always love your groove. You always get me kind of like head bopping. So I really enjoyed that. It seemed a little bit quiet. Obviously, it's still a whip, so I think probably it will get louder when you're done with it. But yeah, I mean, it had some really good hitting low end, and it sounded nice and thick. I think maybe in some places a little bit more air even would be okay, because it's got some nice roundness in the low. It was feeling good on my sub pack, but I think it could stand to have like a little bit more sparkliness. What did you hear, Kindred?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's like the main thing, too, with like tech house. In order to get like the main thing about doing tech house is that you want that round bass, and then you want really sharp percussion. And I think it's lacking the second half. Like, could use some more click. The like fill or snare could have a little bit sharper transient. The 909 could be louder, kind of thing. I think that's like the main thing with this track. Also, doing some processing variation on that vocal, because it does get kind of repetitive. Like doing some flanging or some distortion or something.
And more.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing as well with that vocal, there are occasions where, because you're effectively playing the entire sample loop in full every time, I felt like it was almost coming either too early or too late in some parts of your song, where it, like to the moment it actually took me out of the beat. Like, it was so far out of the pocket that it didn't feel like it was actually meant to sit there.
Yep.
So maybe have a look at that, and when you're playing with automating it, just sit and maybe chop a few of those out or move them around a little bit more just to nail that timing.
Yeah, exactly. I think the ear candy, when you develop it, it will go a long way, and the mix will come. All of it's coming in time. I mean, you have the main bones, so just keep
and the bass
building.
Is banging.
The bass is very banging. I really enjoyed it. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, there's like a meme with tech house tracks where like it's just like the loop and then there's random noises, and I think it kind of lacks the random noises right now. Like the random lasery, filtery delay things that happen once every 2 bars.
Oh, yes. Lasers. More lasers. All right. Next up, Luminaire. Says this is like a B-side for next week's track. Still a whip. General impression. Anything that stands out, good or bad, and if any part feels fatiguing or like it goes on longer than it should. All right. So next up, Luminaire. I actually like your traffic noise, Natty. It's giving us this like Foley ambience of our stream.
Sorry.
It's relaxing.
No, I like it. I seriously do. It is.
An office
It's very.
downtown or something.
It's like
It's
ASMR.
been so humid, I have to leave the window open.
I feel you there.
Oh, that's pretty magical. I really like that vibe. Like the choices of your chords and your sound elements and the balance. Like it just gave me a really nice feeling, and I really like the way it moves. I kind of like that dirtiness. I do think that it needs a little bit more definition with those drums. Like I get what you're doing with the sort of lo-fi, but something I always say is you got to get clean before you can get dirty. So I think you need to kind of like EQ that and clean that up first, and then you can put distortion only on certain bands, because that's important too. Like if you put distortion on your whole drums, or if you put it on like the whole kick or something like that, you don't want to do the low end. So I would do some multi-band distortion and maybe like just on the mids and highs, and then just keep some cleanliness, keep some like clarity underneath it so that it cuts through, even if you keep the distorted sound as more prominent. Like just have that in there, I think, just to give it more definition. But I really, yeah, like James Slack is referencing like Lorne. That was actually immediately who I thought of when I was hearing that, Lorn. If you haven't heard of his stuff, check out Lorne. He's a great producer in this kind of like very dreamy, draggy sort of LA style. But yeah, I really like that tune. I think it's got character. I think it's got uniqueness. Kindred, what do you think?
Yeah, that was really cool. It's like hard to give feedback for these kinds of things because the like the style not isn't like to its detriment, but it's almost like what I would want more out of it is like a snappier transient and like more obnoxious shit happening. But that's like definitely more of a creative choice than it is a mixed choice. What's kind of not a mixed choice is I think it definitely needs like a dedicated sub, like a Reese or something, in order to like bring that low end energy. Because right now it sounds really cool, but like it doesn't sound weighted. It just sounds muffled.
Muffled is a good word. Yeah, muffled is clear. Natty, what did you think?
I mean, there was discussion about confusion regarding the time signature, which I found interesting. It is 4 on the floor, but because you've heavily syncopated it, it doesn't convey that way, which I think is fine. But that means that you could maybe start hinting at the actual time signature in your background percussion, the use of sweeps and loose sort of skirty riser sounds and that kind of thing, where they're sort of following either using gates or the hats or whatever, they're following that more traditional grid setup around your kick and your snare, which is going the boom kind of thing. So that would be kind of where I would go with that, and I mean using that as sort of a break point, because when you got something so static like this where it's sort of all vibey, you just might want those moments of clarity, as it were.
Yeah.
You know, rather than having a traditional drop and breakdown, you just have these points where it's like, okay, I get what this is now.
Yeah. Word. I like that track though. I think that's one of my favorites. Kind of like it was the most interesting I've heard all night. So personal favorite for the evening, I think. Next up we have another Q jumper. We've got the deluxe feedback. So that means we listen to the whole song and we don't talk over it, and then we give a little bit more detailed feedback. So what was the feedback looking for? Anything to add, remove, or manipulate pre-mixing. Okay, so it hasn't really been mixed yet, as my understanding. We'll keep that in mind. Probably gives us more to feedback on. Very nice. Really, really like fun vibes, lo-fi. I mean, for me, like the mix is still, there's something that's still a little bit not quite clear and punchy. Like maybe something about reverbs, a little bit of hollowness kept coming to my mind, like maybe some low mids, maybe just going through and notching. Like sometimes I just sweep an entire project, like with an analyzer, I just go in and check out every channel and just look for stuff that's still hiding, because I can't really even entirely, like maybe somebody else has heard better than me, because I'm definitely not, like mixing is something I've had to work at, and it's not necessarily my natural gift. I'm a sound designer, I'm a composer, but mixings, I often get to this point where I think you're at, where you're like 95% on, and then you're just like, oh, what is that last bit? I don't know. So I would reference tracks, I think, would just be my suggestion, because it's a really, really great. Like, I love this track. I think this is like a slammer. I love this Nintendo Jazz synthwave thing that people are referencing, and I would like play this at a party, and I think people would just have fun. So Melancholy Smile is a cool track name for this, because it gives me that, it's like Christmassy and bell-like, but it's also, yeah, like a little bit nostalgic and mournful. So I really like what you did with everything. And as Zuriel86 is saying, very well composed. Every song kind of has a purpose. Stigma says, I kind of wish the bass and drums were more glued together or had the same EQing going on. So yeah, I mean, I think maybe that's it. Maybe the glue. That's always that point where you can't put your finger on it, but you're like, something is just sitting wrong. So, playing with some bus processing. One of the other very few Waves plugins that I still really like is the NLS Bus, which is this console emulator, and it kind of just gives this nice polish when I put it on like the overall drums and tie it together. So maybe plugins like that, and parallel processing, and just creating these like common processing elements between elements so that they sort of glue together. Kindred.
Yeah. Second, all of that. I don't want to like comment too much on mixing, because you said it's not mixed yet. But yeah, it's just the chords are kind of muddy a little bit, and it could definitely use a lot more high end. Not to like ruin the lo-fi vibe or whatever, but like it would sound clear. I think like as far as what to add and remove, I think like it's all there, right? Like this is composed on purpose. Everything is there on purpose. But I think it's hard to, like, obviously ear candy, that's the word, but like it's like doing little things, like stuff that's adjacent to the kind of genre that you're working in, something to make it like more independently unique, more you. Like if it were my track, I would add little tiny filtered vocal fills of like sampled rap or whatever. You'd like add some variation to the drums, where it like adds like little drum fills, kick variations, that kind of thing. Adding fun samples in the background, like wind chimes or whatever else. I think like it's like 90% there, and that would bring it up the rest of the 10%. Agreed.
Matt?
I mean, well, I already said this in the Twitch chat because I like spoiling my own talking points, but I suggested referencing, if you haven't heard it, there's an album by City Girl called Chroma Velocity, and it covers a lot of, I mean, the best way I can describe it is, it's not lo-fi, it's not hi-fi, it's mid-fi, because it often carries a lot of the mid-fi, because it carries a lot of the modern EDM production sound design, but everything's just given that little bit of edge, and almost sounds like some of the elements have come sampled off an old record. I mean, this is, I think, comes back to the whole mixing glue thing. I mean, the difference between what you can say when you got a MIDI drum track and you're trying to replicate a hip-hop track, and those old hip-hop tracks, is they were sampling drums that were already processed and professionally mastered and all stuck together. So it's kind of like going in with that mindset of saying, okay, I've got to get these drums to sound as good as they can be together by themselves, so that when I bring everything back in, it all kind of makes sense in that hip-hop narrative kind of way. But I mean, the other thing as well is shimmery Like it felt like even though it's sort of aiming for this lo-fi, some of your synths could have done with a little bit of glitter involved with them. Moments where they sort of just bled out into the space.
Yep.
Glitter. I like that. It's a nice change up in the vocab. Very good.
I
But
don't want to say the same thing too many times. That'd be pretty
no,
weird.
it's good. It's good. Flex your vocab. But yeah, we all really enjoyed that. I think I can speak for all of us. It was a good experience. So thank you for submitting and thank you for the donation. We appreciate it. Next
Would
up,
playlist that.
would
Put
playlist
that
that.
on my playlist. That.
Wow. Good feedback. Amazing. Next up, we have Electro Man Music and a track called Moonshot. Just looking for general feedback on this one. All right, that's Electro Man Music with Moonshot. It's hard for me to really give you nuanced feedback on the mix of this one because you've just slammed the limiter or something so hard, or maybe you don't even have a limiter and you're just redlining your master. I'm not sure, but there's a lot of distortion happening when all your elements hit, and then it makes everything kind of just bleed into itself. So I think that like if you back off, your mix might actually be cleaner than it's coming out, because right now it's just like a soup of overcompressed distortion, and it's kind of just keeping me from hearing anything else. My ears are sort of just crunched up. I don't know, Kitchard, if you had a different experience, but that was what I was hearing.
Yeah, I'm not even sure it was a limiter. I think it was just clipping. But cars. But yeah, the like someone said it in the chat, but I think like the main thing here is that you need to be sidechaining your instrumental elements to your drums. I don't think the like fast kick 8-note kick thing is doing you any favors here either. Like if you want something to fill in the space and you want something rhythmic, use like a bass pluck. Like just going dun 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 like is not gonna do you any favors in something like this, which is sort of like housey in the way that it's structured. Also, the main thing I think that would help this track is like variation in sound design, because everything right, and this is hilarious coming from me, everything right now is a sustained saw wave, which like is sort of like turning me off to the track. Like if there was more variation, like rhythmically and also sound design wise in this track, I think it would help a lot.
Agreed.
So, I mean, one of the things Electroman was asking, why does it sound so flat on stream? Well, part of it is because when you're streaming, the services themselves compress everything, the video and the audio. So when you've got a super duper loud track like this one, you can actually bite yourself in the ass here and end up making your track sound worse, because you're basically slamming it into your limiter on your end and then getting another dose of limiting from the service that you're hearing it on. This is why a lot of commercial masters actually, they don't try to aim for as loud as possible. They tend to look at the context and then they sort of aim for a middle ground vote that sounds reasonably loud but isn't completely brick-walled. I mean, there was a period back in the 2000s when CD mastering engineers went really crazy. I mean, there's a lot of reputation with some albums like by Red Hot Chili Peppers, for example, where people consider some of their albums from that era near enough unlistenable, and they had to be completely redone for vinyl because it has completely different headroom expectations, because the needle can actually skip if certain elements are too loud. But I mean, this is kind of another good example of that, where you have to consider where you're expecting your listener to be before you master your track.
Where's that, Nathaniel? Where are they supposed to be?
Well, I mean, right now I'm in my bedroom, and I'm probably getting a slightly higher audio quality streams than you guys on Twitch. Video Ninja's pumping everything through at 320 kilobits. And I'm pretty sure Twitch does not output audio at that rates for streaming, because it's a lot of data, including the video. Yeah, so
and we're also
already
doing
running into and SoundCloud as well. So it's like lots and lots of extra little steps in there. I mean, I think as far as developing the actual idea, I mean, you said you were initially thinking of turning it into like a hard style or happy hardcore track or something. I mean, honestly, don't give up on approaching that. I think it is so cheerful. I mean, honestly, this one reminds me more of Christmas than the previous track did. But I mean, like, you could say it's almost cheesy, but when it comes to happy hardcore, cheesy is the entire point. You know, it's not meant to be too serious. It's a little bit jokey and a little bit fun and high energy, and you know, I'd say keep pushing your track, see how close you can get. Look at some references of happy hardcore tracks you like, and see how close you can mold your aesthetic that you've built here towards that style. It could be worth it.
You never know. All right, moving along, we got Psychoacoustics, aka Mike the Performer, with Hi, I'm Every House Song, and the feedback form spot where it says, what are you looking for? He just says, do you like cliches? Do you like house cliches? All right.
Yes.
In the beginning,
Oh no.
there was
little something like this.
Tribal feast of rhythm, a ceremony of sound, the gathering of the spirits that would lift us off the ground. My vision was so clear, yet still hazy in my mind. I must have went to house heaven because nothing's that divine.
All right, that deserved a playthrough. I had to hear all the cliches. Well done. Well done.
Nice.
Kindred, you go.
Nice meme. I didn't hate that, to be honest. You know, like it kind of reminded me of duck sauce, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's a throwback.
Yeah, you know, they just released an album, actually.
Really?
But yeah, I really didn't hate that. I don't know if you were being serious or not, but you know, that's the internet. If you like tamed back the meme, like I think you could put this out. The one thing, there's like two main things that like actually stood out to me. One is that in the very beginning, it was literally just the kick drum. And if you played that in a club and it was like just the kick drum, I would be like staring at you like, bro, what are you doing? Like, did you forget to mix in the next track? What's going on? So don't do that. Add something, please, on top of the kick. And then the other thing is that as a general rule, when you have high-end content, it needs to match itself. So, like, if you hard pan a hi-hat and then a tambourine, it's going to sound really jarring. It's not going to sound cohesive. It's going to be like, oh, I'm listening to this hi-hat and tambourine at the same time. So, like, if you have, like, a tambourine, you should probably counter it with, like, a shaker or something. Something that's, like, sonically similar in order to make it sound like a percussion section, less so than, like, you putting samples there.
All good.
If that makes sense.
Agreed. I really enjoyed it. I mean, my only thought was just in the mix, I wanted it to pump a little bit more. Like I think all the memes would be like something you'd super dance to, but it's something you could put on in a club and just make everybody kind of like laugh and get up there. But you need that like pumping. I need to feel like that speaker is really gonna be going in and out. And on the sub pack, like it wasn't not totally pumping, but it wasn't fully up there either. So needs a little bit of chest pumping. Nathaniel, what was your headphone experience?
I mean, it was generally alright, although I felt like the bass was a little bit muddy in places. I mean, especially as you got to the end, it felt like you should have been using the end as your reference for the rest of the track and getting the levels right there, because it sort of almost got more confusing as it went along. The other thing, perhaps, as well, is you had a lot of variety in your vocal samples to the meminess, but to the point where, aside from it's a house track and you got the kick and the hats and whatnot going on, I didn't feel like there was a consistent sound to the track. It sort of just felt closer to a mashup medley kind of thing. I mean, you can still play with the cliches while creating a cohesive whole. So perhaps choose one melodic sound. Like you got that 90s piano that you introduced later, for example, and maybe start seeding it through all the track in some capacity. It doesn't have to be played straight either. You can remind us of it by processing it completely differently in one section to another. But I mean, I feel that would be sort of something that would help turn this from not just a meme, but into a real club banger kind of deal. Where it stands on its own rather than just standing in the referencing.
True that. Well, I love the memes. I think it's definitely something you should put out. I think lots of people would play this. Totally worthwhile.
A-Track would.
Next, yes, A-Track would for sure. Next up, we have Gaspar the Poet, aka Zareel86. Thank you for waiting. Thanks for all your support. We see you. We appreciate you. We appreciate all of you. Thanks for joining us every week. And shouts out to Kindred for joining us. I love getting to sort of hang out with you since we type all the time. It's kind of nice to just have like actual face and voice chat and listen to music. So it's a whole different flavor. So yes, just sharing a track from Gaspar the Poet. That's it. General feedback, etc.
1 second. I need to run to the restroom really quick.
Are you gonna run to the restroom? Oh, maybe.
1 minute.
All right. Well, we're gonna wait to make sure that we get all the feedback. In the meantime, let's go into the chat. I wanted to actually shout out, since my computer is starting to be limited, I really wanted to show you some more stuff about the infected mushroom stuff, but I think what I'm going to do is just prep a really simple project for next week, and then I'll show you, and it's not going to stutter. But in the meantime, I want to give shouts out to Volta for making this visuals plugin that you see, where I'm basically just on the fly, like adding elements and playing with things and changing the colors of things, and things are reacting to audio as well. So Volta is like a free plugin. It's pretty cool. You can get it at volta-xr.com. So that's kind of the other plugin of the week, or the plugin in every week. It keeps things from looking too boring. So Nathaniel, it's not a plugin for OBS. Sorry, Mike the Performer just asked. This is a free software that anybody can download to make your own generative visuals. So right now you'll notice the rings are kind of still because they're reacting to the music. So as soon as I start playing music, they're going to start pulsing to like the highs, mids, and lows. You can also hook it up to Ableton. You can hook up to Tractor. You can hook it up to CDJs. And I've just been using it because it's so easy to use that I can actually like hang out in the chat, queue up the songs, pipe audio and video to Nathaniel and whoever the guest is, and run the visuals at the same time, which is something I've never been able to do. Like I didn't have the headspace to do that. So you can see in the little desktop share browser, this is like the program, and I can just change saturation. I can change every single element. Right now I just made it go purple, and you can MIDI control this, so you can hook it up to like different MIDI controllers as well. Ooh, I kind of like this color scheme. All right,
TouchOSC gets my vote.
Yes, I have a total crazy TouchOSC interface that I made just to control Volta. It's a little complicated. I think I'm gonna have to revisit it, but it looks like this. It's pretty crazy. Way too many faders and buttons, but yes. All right, now Kendra is back. We can reconvene to the track, but I lost my mouse again. All right, here we go. Oh, I love these little arps. I love that like kind of random but calculated melody. It's so pretty. Really cool notes and really cool textures. Wow. I mean, I don't have much
Your
to say.
work
Oh
can
my
feel
God. No,
much
YouTube. Ugh, God. I don't pay for YouTube, so I get ads. That was really, really beautiful. I mean, I don't have that much more to say because it would just really put me in this like super floaty, clean place. And like, I really liked where I was. Maddie, do you have a monologue?
I kind of want to hear all the little mallets more. Like they're so pretty on the reverby delay kind of aspect. But it'd been nice. So, I mean, it's something that you hear a lot in orchestral compositions sometimes. Is where they'll give effectively each section of the orchestra something, a highlight moment effectively, where it's like this bit's your solo, and sometimes it'll actually be a solo, but sometimes it'll just be the section, and it'd been really cool to actually hear more of those mallets going at it by themselves perhaps, and then bring everything else to a more subtle hum. I mean, the vocal bit is kind of present throughout the whole thing, and the bass is very present throughout the whole thing. It would help break it up perhaps a little bit more because you've got a lot of nice textures, and it's just more, I think, that giving the limelight to some of them a bit is my thinking here. It was a lovely vibe though. I mean, I do really appreciate this sort of. I mean, it's not techno, but it's sort of like that organic electronica kind of thing.
Yeah,
And I'm always on board with that.
absolutely. Kindred, any thoughts?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I thought that was good. Overall. What I wrote down was there's like one really small section where that vocal sample like cuts like super hard and nothing else does because I think the reverb might be like baked into the sample or something. And then it ends and it just like cuts and it gets really dry. That was weird. Um, the vocal also, because it's saying ooh, it has like a really strong fundamental, and I think it might be a little bit too strong. Like it gets kind of boomy, so I'd pull that down just like a tiny bit, like the fundamental of those vocals. The glitch percussion has a lot of like mid and high mid content, or it had a lot of high mid content. I think if you boosted the mids and made it sound more like stocky and chunky, I think it might be a little bit more impactful. And then um, the kick is like in a weird middle ground where it's kind of squishy right now. So like I think you either need to commit to either like soft clipping it so it's distorted or having a higher mid transient. I think either one could work. It's up to you, but you need to commit to one because right now it sounds weird.
Sweet. Thank you for that detailed feedback. Really stoked. Some really beautiful
Glad someone
stuff
takes
as
notes.
usual.
Yeah.
For sure.
I know.
Yeah. The variety that we get is good. The talent we get is super impressive. So thank you all for sending in your stuff. Next up, we have Hums in a track called Too Far to Go Back. And they said, why does my mouse keep disappearing? Any creative ideas?
for this-
Yeah.
Sorry, you-
Please, read it, Natty, in your Natty voice.
Any creative ideas for the second drop? Also curious about what you guys think of the mix.
All right. So, well, check it out.
this feedback loop grows, it reinforces our own selection biases. We begin to subconsciously choose friends, news sources, and other media that also agrees with our worldview. In addition, we begin to distance ourselves from sources that might disagree with our viewpoints. Essentially, you end up in an echo chamber where it's just a bunch of people that all agree with you. Whether your views match in reality or not, you stop hearing views that actively disagree with your worldview, even if your current worldview is highly biased or factually incorrect. This is a very dangerous way of thinking. There is little anyone can say or do that will cause you to change your mind. Change your mind, 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 change your mind.
Some really unique style stuff tonight. Like, this is freaking dope. This is so unique. Like, it's kind of drum and bass, but it's like kind of sort of Nintendo-y, but it's kind of fat. I don't even know what style it is. I think that
Y2K.
Y2K. No, I mean, I think it's super
like
cool.
All this graphics, but in music form.
Did you? What was your feeling about it, Natty?
I mean, it's a very chaotic track, but given the narrative presented by the vocals, it feels intentional. There was a couple of comments in the Twitch chat that I thought were maybe interesting to consider. There was talk about the kick and how it felt like it was coming in late. I think most of that is to do with the transient of the kick specifically. It's like you've got too much attack on the kick, so maybe consider adding another layer in just for the transients that hits closer to the actual beat. The other thing would also address one of the other thoughts, which was on Discord. Where was that? Suhan suggested some velocity difference in the kick. And by alternating how you present your samples, if you've got a couple of different layers, that would achieve effectively the same effect. Then there was one more thing. Not sure about... Mike the Performer said not sure about the sub. Even on my system, I assume they're going to have a good system in this context. It kind of disappears when it gets down to the lowest pitch. This is also why reference mixing across different setups is very important. Maybe have a look at building in another harmonic layer into your sub that allows it to reproduce better on less subby systems. Like, I always like testing things on my smartphone because it's literally the worst environment as far as speakers go. A really small space, not really capable of reproducing a lot of those sub notes at all. And if it still feels close enough, then you're getting on the right track. And I can kind of see that with this, where it's sort of almost losing itself just ever so slightly. But my headphones are also very bassy, so I didn't notice that as much as Mike. But I'd say it is worth checking out.
Yeah. I think like mix wise, there's definitely some referencing that is a great idea in this one because the arrangement is all there. Kindred, what did you think?
Yeah, someone has been listening to Imanu and Camo and Crooked. Yeah, I think the kick late thing, I think what you said is right, but also there's like some instances where it's like syncopated in a way where it's like offbeat, which I think can be cool, but it's like so close in the partial that it just sounds like you hit the kick late or something, or like you forgot to quantize it. So if you're gonna do that, I would do it on more macro beats. I thought the variation was like that part when the like pitch envelope square bass came in. I thought that was weird. It almost felt sort of random. I think like a smarter thing to do if you're gonna do that would be to do like a whole B section where it's like just that as the main bass instead of that like really loud Reese bass, and have like a more syncopated section. And also with that, I would be careful not to use too much like micro syncopation and focus more on macro syncopation, especially at a tempo that fast. It sounds very like, I get the idea is to be sporadic, but it sounds like overly sporadic. And then the snare, I think could use another layer on it to make it snap more in the middle. Like for example, Camo and Crooked, like if you listen to their tracks, their snares snap super hard in the middle.
Yeah, some snappy snare things would be good. Dope. We only have a few more tracks left, but Suhan has been waiting very patiently. Thank you so much for supporting us and for chilling. This is the vibe, we're just here to hang out, and everyone is a friend in this case. We are all giving each other feedback. So Suhan says, I'm 15 years old, initially got into proper EDM music, but slowly starting to like other genres such as R&B and indie. Here is just a little snippet of a track I made 2 days back. Yeah, so Suhan is telling us in the chat that this is going to have vocals. I mean, that would be the first feedback I would give, would just be like, it needs vocals, like totally ready for a vocalist to come in and then to build the track around that. But, it definitely, as I put in the chat, it was reminding me of the Backstreet's Back, all right, like, so I could see some kind of like R&B sort of like, what were you going to say, Natty?
I had a completely different reference point in mind.
That's hilarious. I can't wait to hear it. But yeah, I mean, I liked it. I think it could have a total vibe. It really depends on what kind of vocals you go with, right? The different vocalist will take it in a totally different direction. But obviously the mix could use some work. I think overall it's a little bit like muffled, and it needs to pop out and sparkle a bit more. And there's so many ways you can do this, whether it's like compressing individual elements and then buses, adding like Slate Digital's Fresh Air as a plugin that people like to cite a lot on here because it's free and because it does add some like sparkliness, some EQing, just overall cleaning up, and so that the elements can pop out. But please come back and show us when you have the vocals. I'd love to hear what you do with the vocals. Yeah, Kindred.
Yeah, it's hard to give feedback on full mixes with other vocals because it kind of like depends on the space that those are giving. But yeah, I think like the two main things is like the drums. I think either like some new samples or like layering with a break could be really helpful because they kind of lack the snap that like hip hop drums usually have. And the second thing is I think you should drop your bass an octave. because it's like in the bass guitar area right now and not like the EDM sub area. So 1 octave down.
Totally agreed. Agreed. I think
So,
people make
wanna
that
hear my
mistake a
ref-
lot. Yes. What is
Yeah,
your
understandably.
reference?
Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the intro music to the Grand Theft Auto games. And if you were going to have this as, and just ignore the vocal aspect for now, if you're going to reference anything for this, for the instrumental aspect, it'd be those games, because they're actually a generally solid production in video game music like that. And the other reason I even thought of it is because I recently found an attempted orchestral performance of the GTA themes on YouTube. It's actually, but they're full of swagger and they're fun, and I think that it's obviously harking back to a lot of the old school like boom bap hip hop kind of vibe. But I mean, yeah, I mean, if you were to develop the instrumental further, go check there and see if you can glean any inspiration from it, because it'd be fun. I think this has the potential to be a really fun track.
It does. It
Also,
really does.
shotgun, you know, like the shotgun cranking noises. Maybe add a couple of those.
Yeah. Like cock noises.
The shotgun grab.
Cop noises, yes.
Oh my
like
goodness.
police cars.
Woohoo! All right, we're getting almost at the end. I think we've got 5 Jesus up next, and then we might have a double dipper, right? We got another one from
We got 2 double
Stigma and-
dippers, which I've queued up in the right order for you. in
Perfect,
DMs
perfect.
There, so.
Thank you very much. You're amazing. Without Nathaniel, I could not do this. And Kindred, you've given such awesome feedback. I'm really stoked that you're with us. We got 5 Jesus up next, just looking for feedback on mixing and levels with a track called Jumble Sailing. This is really cool. I like that ending. Like sometimes a lot of things are whips, so we get a lot of these like sudden endings. But that was an actual proper ending for a 2-minute piece. Super vibes and really nice and clean. The bass sounded particularly nice and round on my sub pack. So me and my sub pack very much enjoyed that track. Nathaniel, how did it feel to you?
I'm just waiting for your sub pack to start joining the conversation. I feel like you're speaking for it. You're not letting it have a voice of its own. But no, actually, the bass sounded really good on my end as well. That was very satisfying to listen to. I think that personally the weakest point was when you tried to break down the piano. It's almost like you tried to rush it to the point where it doesn't really ease right out of your jungly break bit. And the piano didn't really get enough opportunity to actually stand by itself and say, yes, I'm a nice piano. Listen to me and enjoy me. So maybe look at just sort of easing up on that a little bit and going more minimal first before building back up into that sort of loose hip hop style beat, and which you then sped up into your jungle. You know, like, I want your breakdown to be more breakdowny.
Yeah, I feel it. What did you think?
It needed at least 3 samples that said jungle was massive. I like that. I like I like that style. In the breakdown, on top of what all they said, that snare's too quiet. It needs to be a tiny bit louder. Something about the break, I don't know if it's like stereo in the new mono did or something, but it's like phasing the snare. Or it's like you put a flanger on it and then resampled it or something, but it goes every time the snare plays. It sounds very weird. It's kind of distracting. I would also maybe pitch the breakdown like a semitone or something so that it has a little bit more weight to it. And in the second half, there's like a square arp kind of thing that it might be a little bit too loud, but it's kind of hard to tell on headphones. It's kind of like a monitors thing, but it just might be too loud because it's in such a wide stereo field. But that's it.
Very minor critique there.
Very minor. I mean, this is something I would enjoy playing. Sometimes I go through this and I'm like, yeah, I wish I had the downloads. I would totally play all this stuff. All right, so we're down to our last 2 double dippers. So we're going back to Alfie, which is where we started tonight. Would like to know comments on the feeling and the vibe of the vocal. P.S. This is supposed to sound dirty, with the layers of vocals being slightly distorted. Okay. Let's.
All right, you guys ready?
1, 2, 3. Alien rising in a cellular bed. Early morning cigarettes with ice in my fed. I was born in line, but at least in my defense, I wouldn't have a problem if you got on my head. So what you ready for me? I feel dead. Cut me off and find my friend. You're breaking my mental, it's works in the cannon. I thought I had the best. It's sad what can happen to the best people. No
Okay, Alfie, I think this is my favorite thing that I've heard from you. Like it was really cool. Had a really nice vibe. The drums, I really like the sounds of the drums that you chose, and the vocals are good. Again, and I know you weren't here for earlier on and you missed it, but what I said in the first track kind of goes through here. I can't understand all of them, which is a shame because I really want to. So I would go through like some of the tricks that I say to people is to have like a very dry and breathy and sparkly layer of the vocal and just kind of like low cut it all the way up to almost the top and then just like lay it over top of your distorted vocal so that it gives kind of like an outline and like then you can hear like this like all that ASMR part that you kind of lose when you put the distortion, which is what makes it a little harder to understand. That gives it back to you. So you can mix that back in and I think it would just like come a long way for hearing. And Barrett said it very well as well, said that thinks that the vocalist sounds great but needs to enunciate better and step back from the mic. The proximity effect makes the vocal sound a little too lo-fi for the instruments that are being used. So yeah, Imagine Music says you should look at your mix in mono. Yeah, Kindred, thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know what's going on with the vocal. It like might be the mic. It just sounds like not clear. Like the high end, the way that it's being processed sounds unclear. Also, I think you need to commit to the dirtiness. I think you're like being reluctant about it. Like the vocal could be more distorted if you wanted it to be. A reference I think that could be great for this kind of style is Underscores, if you know who that is. Makes hyperpop. It's kind of in that realm. And I think referencing that kind of mix would make sense. I'm like not too familiar with this genre, but I know of that person and I think their mixes sound good. Also, compositionally, the it needs more variation between the sections because it gets kind of stagnant and then the chorus comes in and you're like, this sounds the same as what I just listened to. So like something that like either makes that pop or like makes the section before a little bit more reserved, I think would do the track well.
I mean, one way would be with the piano, particularly. If you're going to make it more reserved, you can bring some of it down an octave a little bit. And also, if in your piano plugin, there's the expression knob, effectively. On a real piano, it would be the pedal. But, I mean, obviously, digitally, you don't have one of those. So you just automate it a bit to bring down the intensity of the piano, the hardness of it. It makes it a softer note. So maybe that would probably accomplish what you're suggesting there, Kindred.
Yeah.
Good feedback. Good
like
song.
softer playing.
Yeah,
It is
exactly.
a good song.
It's written well, yeah.
Very well written. I think this is going to be the last one. Is this correct, Nathaniel?
I believe so, yeah. I mean, people haven't submitted for the last 20 minutes, so I closed the queue.
Perfect. All right. Well, Stasis Stigma, excuse me, is gonna close us off tonight with a track. It's a dubstep horror track. All right. That'll be something to go off to sleep with, I suppose. Good night lullaby. Just trying to polish this. Looking for a good place to publish it. Any feedback is appreciated. All right. So, singing you to sleep with some dubstep horror. We have Stasis Stigma.
Oh I'm telling you, they can't get in here.
And I'm telling you, those things turned over our car.
Oh, well, I'll sleep
Wow.
soundly tonight. Oh,
Oh dear. Oh my god.
I feel like if the people are playing that zombie game in the background. It's good atmosphere. Yeah, I'm gonna echo, like, I think three people said it in the chat, and I was thinking it in my head at the same time. So I think we all agree. The only thing really, like, the bass sound design is good. It slaps pretty hard. That little sign melody. I did see Zuriel said that they liked it, but both the Kindred and myself, and like, I just think that it's like the simplicity and the roundness and the resonance of it doesn't fit very well between the, like, really well designed bass and, like, the drums. It's just kind of, it sits in an odd place, and it sort of takes frequencies away that it shouldn't, and it's too simplistic and takes up too much space. I think, like, if you want that in there, I would, like, cut a lot of the lows and sort of put it in the background just as, like, a ghosty percussive element instead of a front piece. Kindred, you agreed with me, I think, on that one.
Yeah. So I saw this picture earlier, and it just, like, this metaphor just makes sense to me. I saw this picture earlier of this Bugatti where they took the front half off and then put a Mercedes on it, and it looked very weird, and that's what this track sounded like. Like, it's two, like, things that make a lot of sense, but together it's like, I don't know what's going on. It just, like, if you, like, you either gotta, like, get rid of the sine wave so it's not, like, super spacious, or you gotta commit to it so it sounds very spacious, because those two things do not make sense together.
Yeah, interesting how much feedback can be subjective. I mean, that's part of the reason why I wanted to start a stream where there's just not just me giving feedback, but there's a bunch of people, because people have different opinions. And Zuriel is holding tight and saying, I thought it contrasted awesomely, aggressive versus sweet. I think there is a place for that kind of contrast, but I don't think that they're gelling well together. So there's a lot of things that could be done to sort of that would change the timbre and would basically render it not a sine wave anymore, I think. Personally, Natty, do you agree, disagree?
I think that you guys have the right idea with the thing, but there's also something slightly interesting to me, at least, in that all you guys are focusing on the sine waves and the bounce and the mix and in the drops and the bassy dubsteppy bits, and I'm going there. It sounds like my first thought when I heard the intro is it sounds like you're trying to get your money's worth out of a sample with the vocals. Because I feel like you repeat them too many times, and it's almost like your intro becomes too long because we've just heard this same vocal loop over and over again, And then it comes into the drop, and yeah, you're doing something slightly different underneath, but it's like, because it's clearly a sample, it's like she hasn't noticed that you're doing something different, so she isn't doing anything different in response to you. Like you might get out of an actual session recording where, people will adapt to what they're hearing, and they might change their tonality and their timbre a little bit, and she's not doing that. When she comes back in the second time, I think it works a lot better, because it's almost like you've found that middle ground between where you want the track to sound with the high up up energy dubsteppy bits and this epic orchestra vocally kind of thing. But until then, it's sort of like just batting into the head of, hey, I've got this cool sample, don't you love it too?
Absolutely.
Just choose your moments to actually express your love of this sample.
Yeah.
I know that's a weird thing to fixate on, but that was just the rest of it. I mean, all sounds very intentional, but this just sort of sounds like you've been hearing this sample so much, and your love hasn't waned for it. But you need to make us respect the sample as much as it is by wanting it to come back when it hits that second drop.
It's kind of like what you said about like the orchestral like energy kind of thing. It how do I say this? Like if you want to make soup, you can't put all the ingredients to a soup on a plate and be like, this is soup. Like you have to cook them together. So like in a way you have to like if you're trying to go for that sort of epic vibe and that like spacious orchestral vibe, you have to make it fit within the context of what you're doing. You can't just like pick a piece out of it and be like, all right, this is in my track now. Like, and someone who does that extremely well and like that's his entire thing is Apache. Like you got to go listen to Apache if you're doing this kind of thing.
Absolutely. Well, great work, everybody. Thank you so much, everybody who donated. Thank you so much, everyone who chilled and supported in the chat. A special thanks to Kindred for coming in and joining us. Thank you always to Nathaniel, who's coming to visit me very soon, and we'll do a Feedback and Friends in person, which is going to be so cool. Kindred's got a new album that he's working on. I am perpetually working on my album, so don't even ask. Nobody did. Cool. Nathaniel I don't know. Nathaniel, are you working on an album too?
No, I'm working on a few EPs, but no, I'm staying away from albums for the next while because I want to continue improving. And the minute you establish yourself as working on a big project, any sense of exploration tends to kind of just fall by the wayside. So I don't want to avoid that right now.
Absolutely. Well, thank you,
I
everybody.
have one album out, thank you. Execution. I do like albums.
He does, but
I love albums.
I'm gonna buy that Hyundai Sonata I've been saving up for. That was the best roast. I can't wait to clip that later. But thank you, everybody, for joining in. This has been another Feedback and Friends. Have a good night.